उत्वादीन गणेश करुणया कोपीन कंठासितो गोपी भावरसामृताभिलहरी कल्लोलमग्नोन्मुहो वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजगं
Sri Jiva Gopala Ko. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees of the Prabhupada Disciples Association on a Saturday morning here in Canada. It's snowing outside. There's a lot of ice and winds blowing. And we are moving forward on the path of eternal time. This is a understanding of the Vaishnava philosophy that there are three kinds of time, past, present, future, and then, of course, eternal time, which is the nature of the soul. Satchidananda. We are eternal spirit souls. We are not this material body. And we are the servants of our Guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. That is our focus. So today, we're going to carry on with our reading of the Jaladuta Diaries, the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada as he made his way from India to America to start the Sankirtan mission, which we are part of. So, Vinkat, I think we're at Sunday, August 22nd. I believe it is. Prabhupada had arrived in Cochin, and they just finished the Janmashtami celebration where he spoke for an hour on the philosophy and then gave prasadam. They gave prasadam to everyone. So I think it's page 46, Sunday the 22nd. At about 10 a.m., we are now in the dockyard of Cochin. The dock is peculiar because it is by nature full of small islands. Some of the islands are full with nice hutments, formerly known as the British Island. I saw my books from Bombay arrived in 5 cases, and the agents loaded them onto the ship at 4 p.m. on 22/8/65. The agent is Jairam and Sons. Kindly sent their car for my driving into the city. Out of the group of islands, 2 big islands joined by an iron overbridge are known as Cochin and Ernakulam. The iron overbridge was constructed by the Britishers very nicely along with the railway lines. The railway line is extended up to the port. There are many flourishing foreign banks and firms and banks. It is Sunday. He's not sure, but it is. The bazaar was closed. I saw a particular kind of plantain available in this part of the country. The island known as Cochin is not up-to-date city. The roads are like narrow lanes. The part of the city where the foreigners are residing as well situated. The building factories, etc., all big as well maintained. The Mohammedan quarters are separate from the Hindu quarters as usual in other Indian cities. The part known as Karnakula is up to date. There is a nice park on the bank of the Gulf, and it is named Subhas Bose Park. It is good that Subhas Babu is popular in this part of the country. I saw the Kerala High Court and the public buildings, the High Court being situated in Ernakulam. It appears that the city is the capital of Kerala. This part of India resembles Bengal scenario, and the city of Ernakulam, also Cochin, appears to me like Old Kalighat or Toligunj area of Calcutta. The culture is Indian as usual. Prabhupada very detailed in his knowledge of where he is, all the cities, all the places, so astute, amazing. Okay, so on Monday, official Bhadra 31 days, 1887 Saka. Monday, today, Unedited. We start towards Red Sea on the Western Front about 12:30 noon. 12:30 noon. The sky was almost clear and there was a sunshine since the starting of the ship from Cochin port. We are floating now on the Arabian Sea. What an adventurer. Amazing. My seasickness again began. Headache, vomiting tendency, no hunger, dizziness, and no energy to work. It is continuing. There's sometimes showers of rain, but for a short time. There was a fellow passenger in my cabin. He is also attacked with seasickness. The whole night passed. Tuesday, the 24th of August. Today at about 1:30 p.m., I inquired from the real room that we have come on, that we have come only 400 miles off the Indian coast. My seasickness is still continuing. I take my meals once only, but today I could not take my full meals. Although I was fasting yesterday, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Wednesday the 25th, beginning from today down. Oh, so here, I'll show you. Here you can see. Here's where Prabhupada suffers his heart attack. So he went from August 26th, 27th, Friday, 28th, 29th, 30th, which is a Monday, and Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, the 31st, he writes, passed over a great crisis on the struggle for life and death. A separate statement has to be written on this crisis area. So severe heart attack here. And then on Wednesday the 1st, so that's a long time that he didn't eat, it appears. And incredible, just incredible how much austerity and surrender he performed even before he got to America. Amazing. Wednesday the 1st, he marks one where they are, Port Suez, and then Thursday, Suez Canal and Port Said, Friday. So here Prabhupada appears to be recovering, and he starts again. We started from the Port Said today at about 1 p.m. The Port Said city is nice. It has long, neat, and clean roads with lofty buildings. The city is not at all congested. While passing the rear point of Suez towards Mediterranean Sea, the city is clearly seen, but it is a small city with some industrial factories. Although in the desert in the city, all varieties of vegetables are available, there is also a marine drive like Bombay Chowpatty Beach. I could see a good park in the city. Let's see where we are. Okay. So we'll just finish these next 3 days. Saturday, there was a rehearsal for emergency. We all prepared with belt on the body, and the lifeboat was tested whether they were in order. There were 2 boats with capacity to load 120 persons, but we were all about 55 on the board. Sunday the 5th, in the evening, the sky was cloudy, and they expected foggy weather, and all of them became very little gloomy. But at midnight we passed Malta, Sicily. By God's grace, it was all right throughout the night. Today I've taken Khichdi, that's Monday on the 6th, and Kari. It was tasteful, and I took them with relish, and this gave me a push forward to get renewed strength, little by little. So here's the first record after a long time of him taking prasadam and maintaining his health. So Prabhupada undertook great austerity to bring Krishna consciousness to the Western world, and we can relish these pastimes and become familiar with how great our Guru is and how fortunate we are to be able to serve such a pure devotee of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Venkat, if you could please bring on the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers. We'll chant along, everyone. And then we'll have the class, the Bhagavad-gītā class, As It Is, from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, snowed in California. Hare Krishna.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Amuspa Paramahansa Parivrajaga-Acārya Sattva Small Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki जय जमुना माई की जय गुरु द्वारका धाम की जय स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जय ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर सिमर ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर सिमर थैंक यू वेरी मच
ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगुणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादं सहगुणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरे वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So we are reading from Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, the 1972 Macmillan edition. We will be reading from chapter 7, text number 22 and 23, all synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasyaradhanam Hiyate Labhati Chatata Kaman Mayeva Vihitan Hitan Sahi Taya with that, Shraddhaya with faith, Yuktaha endowed, Tasya his, Aradhanam worship, Ihate seeks, Labate obtains, Cha and Tata from which, common desires, maya, by me, eva, alone, vihitan, regulated, he, for, tan, those. Translation: endowed with such a fate, he seeks favors of a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Endowed with such a fate, he seeks favor of a particular demigod and obtains his desires. Purport: the demigods cannot award benediction to the devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are not due to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he's mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity, and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service of the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform, because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities who prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Text 23. Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamidhasam devan devayajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mamapi. Antavattu, limited and temporary. Phalam, fruits. Tesham, there. Tat, that. Bhavati, becomes. Alpamidhasam, of those of small intelligence. Devan, demigods, planets. Devayajaha, worshippers of demigods. Yanti, achieve. Mat, my. Bhaktaha, devotees. Yanti, attain. Mam, unto me. Api, surely. Translation: men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planet of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Some commentators on the Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, a worshiper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planets. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here, for it is clearly stated that the worshiper of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the supreme planet of the Personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshiping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they don't know to what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This is not very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. And in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are demigods parts of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord. The Kshatriyas are the arms, etc. And they all serve different functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But he does not understand this. He achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable, because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshiping demigods are perishable. And therefore, such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge. His achievements and those of the common worshiper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. His favor is unlimited. His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sarkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very important sequence of verses described by Lord Krishna all the way from text number 20 to 23. And here we see Krishna's verdict regarding the destination of the worshiper of demigods. Now, this is a very important point because there are many misconceptions and misunderstandings regarding the worship of demigods, especially in India, where many persons think that worship of demigods and worship of the Supreme Lord Krishna or Vishnu is the same. But that is not. Krishna declares this in the Bhagavad-gītā here. He clearly explains in text number 22 who is bestowing the benefits. The demigod worshippers often give the example of the waters of the river that goes into the ocean. They claim that the water merges with the ocean. But according to our previous Acharya, specifically Madhvacharya and other great Vaishnavacharyas, this is not so, because the molecules of water from the river do not merge with the atomic molecules of the water in the ocean. They remain separate. Prabhupada explains in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, Ramanujacharya explains that if a green bird enters into a green tree, the bird does not merge with the tree. It retains its individual existence. Similarly, the worshippers of the demigods will attain the results of worshiping the demigods, whereas the worshippers of Lord Krishna attain Lord Krishna. This is nicely described by Krishna himself in the chapter 4, text number 9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punara janma naiti mam iti Arjuna. That for one who understands the transcendental nature of my activities, he comes back to Krishna, comes back to the Supreme Lord. So this is a very important point, because we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Krishna is describing that in this age of Kali, the incarnation, the Yuga avatar is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangasha Parshadam Yagne Samkirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumidasaha. Now, this is a very important point because there's two words in Sanskrit. One is called Alpamedasaha and one is called Sumedasaha. Alpamedasaha means persons who have less intelligence, people of minimal intelligence. And Sumedasaha mean people who are very intelligent. So the worshiper of the Supreme Lord are considered Sumedasaha. Whereas in text number 23 here, it is described Tad Bhavati Alpamedasam, that those of small intelligence engage in this worship of demigods. Why? Why does Krishna say that? It is explained. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Now, it's quite significant how in text number 22, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the difference between a pure devotee and a person who is a materialistic devotee. Prabhupada explains, a living entity goes to the demigods usually because he's mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity, and the Lord himself does not fulfill that desire. Prabhupada says earlier in the purport, asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. For those practitioners, for those sadhakas who are engaged in the path of bhakti, it's very important to understand how to desire, how to properly desire, to learn the art and the science of to properly desire. Fortunately, in our sampradaya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us very nice instruction in the Shikshastakam. In the Shikshastakam, Lord Chaitanya is describing Nam Namakari Bhavada Nija Sarva Shaktis, that you are so kind that you have invested all of your potencies, Nija Sarva Shaktis, in your holy name. But unfortunately, I don't have too much attraction. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, the perfect example of a devotee, of a pure devotee. Nam namakari bauda nija sarvakshasya tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kalaha. And these beautiful names are endowed with so much potency that you can chant them anywhere, anytime. But then the problem is, how much attraction do we have for chanting the name of Krishna? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressing himself in the mood of a devotee, na anuragara, that I have no attraction, I have no taste for this chanting. Of course, we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always chanting. We also saw the example of Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, who was always chanting the name of Krishna. Prabhupada often explained that Haridas Thakur used to chant 300,000 names a day. That's like chanting 22 hours a day. That's why he was named Namacharya. But Haridas Thakur, it's important to note that the caste Brahmins, the Smarta Brahmins in Jagannath Puri, would not allow him to come into the temple because he had been born in a Yavana family. They used to call him Yavana Haridas, in a Mohammedan family, because these Brahmins, being puffed up by their birthright, were thinking he's a lower class person because he was born in a Mohammedan family. But yet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is Krishna himself, elevated him to the platform of Acharya, Nam Acharya Haridas Thakur. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to visit him regularly in Jagannath Puri. Every day, Haridas Thakur used to offer his obeisances to the chakra, the wheel, the Sudarshan wheel on the top of the Jagannath Puri temple. Same thing for Rup and Sanatan Goswami, because they had been engaged in the service of Nawab Hussain Shah in Bengal, the Muslim king. They were looked upon by the Brahmins, the Smarta Brahmins of Jagannath Puri, of being a lower birth. They were not allowed in the temple. But they used to worship by offering obeisance to the chakra and chanting the sacred name of Krishna. So these are very important points, the difference between Sumedasaha and Alpamedasaha, people of less intelligence. We have often discussed how in the Sri Upanishad, in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the different destinations of the demigod worshippers. Prabhupada is paraphrasing these various verses in Bhagavad-gītā And Prabhupada gives the example that if you buy a ticket to go from Calcutta to Madras, you will not end up in Bombay. You will end up in Madras, or now known as Chennai. So this is very important. A person may think that all the demigods are the same and worship of Krishna is the same, but the reality is different. We see in Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna explains in this chapter 7, text 7, Matta parataram nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya, that there is no truth superior to me. Everything is resting upon me like pearls upon a thread. We also see in Bhagavad-gītā in chapter 10, Krishna explains, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate, that I am the source of all material and spiritual world. Everything emanates from me. One has to understand the position of Krishna. Very important. When we were traveling in South India, we had the opportunity many times to meet many of these demigod worshippers. And that illusion and that misunderstanding is very deep. They have demigod temples. They keep demigod pictures in their homes, in their offices. One time we were in Madurai. So Madurai is a city where they have a big temple of Meenakshi, a form of Durga. So we met this one Indian gentleman, and this gentleman was trying to tell us that Lord Shiva is the supreme. He's called Mahadev or Maheshwara. And we tried to tell him, no, Krishna is the supreme. So we had some Krishna books with us, trying to explain him to become a life member, that he would get these books. And this man was wearing the big Shiva tilak on his head. And we told him, why don't you wear a Vaishnav tilak like this, Urdhva Pundra? He says, oh no, we are worshippers of Lord Shiva. And then he started to become angry. He says, why you are putting this Krishna book? Why don't you put the Shiva book? And we explained to him, no, no, no. In the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna explains that he is the Supreme Lord and that everyone should surrender to him. But he was so indoctrinated, so deluded, he could not understand. So this is a big, big problem. Big problem with this misconception. That is why we pay our obeisances every day to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine. You have very kindly come to spread the teachings, Gauravani, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. All of this impersonalism and voidism. Pashatyadisharan. You have come to the Western countries to preach. Somebody named Dr. Puja has made a nice comment that unfortunately in India, many people think that Lord Shiva is the master of the universe or the creator. Yes, Mataji, that is a fact. These people have not understood because they have not heard the message of Bhagavad-gītā in bona fide disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarashayo viduhu. One has to learn from the bona fide Acharya. Acharya upasanam socham. In Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 13, it is described that one of the elements of knowledge is to accept and worship the bona fide Acharya. We see in the Chandogya Upanishad, Acharyavan Purusho Veda, that one who worships and hears from the bona fide Acharya, it's to be understood that he will know what the Vedas are. Srila Prabhupada used to often quote from the Shvetashvara Upanishad, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasyeti Kachita Hyartaha Prakashanti Mahatmanaha, that for those who have firm faith in the Supreme Lord Krishna and the bona fide Acharya, all the imports, all the meaning of Vedic literatures are revealed unto such persons. But a person cannot understand these things unless he hears submissively from the Acharya. At this point, we're going to read a little bit from a lecture that Prabhupada gave in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, India, on November 23rd, 1972. November 23rd, 1972. In the middle of this lecture, Prabhupada explains, Kritayadhyayato Vishnum Tretayam Yajato Makehi Dwapare Paricharyayam Kalo Tadari Kirtana. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam 12:352. This is the injunction of the Shastra, that in the Satya Yuga, when people were said to live for 100,000 of years, at that time, yogic principle, meditation was possible. And in the Treta Yuga, the performance of big sacrifices was possible because things were available. There were Yajnika Brahmanas. In this age, practically, there's no Yajnika Brahmana who can perform Yajna. No competent Brahmana. Therefore, performance of sacrifices is not possible. The only performance of sacrifice is this. As we are performing Hare Krishna festival, that is stated, Yajne Samkirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:532. Yajne Samkirtana. In this age, Kali Yuga, no other sacrifices is possible. Only sacrifice. This is sacrifice. Yajne Samkirtana. Just like we are doing in a small scale. But it can be done in a larger scale. But people are not interested. People are not interested. They have lost all brain. Sumedasaha and Alpamedasaha. These two words are used in the Shastras. Alpamedasaha. Medha means brain substance. So those who are Alpamedasaha, they means less brain substance. Antavat tufalam tesham tad bhavalti alpamedasam. Bhagavad-gītā 7:23. Alpamedasaha, less intelligent, less brain substance. They worship different demigods. Kamesteste ritagnyanaha yajanti anya devataha. Bhagavad-gītā 7:20. The anya devatas are there, but who are attracted to worship other demigods? Those who are lusty. Kamesteste ritagnyanaha. These are the statements in the Bhagavad-gītā, you know. Those who are lusty, and being lusty, they have lost their senses. Ritagnyanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Ritagnyanaha nastra buddhayaha. No intelligence. Kamesteste ritagnyanaha prapadyanti anya devataha. Bhagavad-gītā 7:20. Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasam. Bhagavad-gītā 7:23. So in this age, this is simply waste of time. If you're actually interested in spiritual advancement of life, if you divert your attention in so-called worship of this demigod, that demigod, this demigod, then you'll simply waste your time. There will be no advancement. And even if you become perfect in worshiping the demigod, then what will be your profit? The profit will be Yanti Devabrata Devan, Bhagavad-gītā 9:25. You can go to the planets where the demigods live, but the planets in this material world, everything will be annihilated. Antavattu phalam tesham, Bhagavad-gītā 7:23. Suppose you are promoted to the Brahmaloka. That is also Antavat. It will be finished. Because by the end of Brahma's duration of life, everything within this universe will be finished. Therefore, Antavat, that is not permanent. But if you manage to go back to home, back to Godhead, then Yad Gatva Nanivartante Tadhama Paramam Mama, Bhagavad-gītā 15:6. Then that is perfect life. So anyone who is not interested in perfect life, they'll be allured by this so-called demigod worship. antavattu phalam. But those who are intelligent, these are the activities of the alpamidasaha. But one who is sumidasaha, one who has got good brain substance, for him in this age, it is recommended. Yagnye samkirtana prayer yajantihi sumidasaha Krishna varandam tvisha Krishnam sango pangasta parsadam Yagnye samkirtana prayer yajantihi sumidasaha Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Krishna Varnam, Krishna himself, Krishna or Krishna Varnayati, the one, the incarnation of God who will chant always Krishna. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached this Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, Krishnam Varnayati iti Krishna Varnam. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Akrishnam. Tvisha, by complexion, is Akrishna, not black. Krishna appeared blackish, not blackish as we imagine. Kandarpakoti Kamaniya. Krishna, although he is blackish, he is attractive more than millions of cupids. Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5:30. So anyway, Krishna appears in 4 colors: red, black, yellow, and white in different ages. So in this age, Kali Yuga, Krishna appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yellow color. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam. A Krishna may be red, a Krishna may be white, but this Akrishna means Pita, yellow. Because other Krishna, red and white, was in the Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga. Therefore here, Krishna means the yellow. Krishna Varanam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopan Gashta Parsadam. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. He is always surrounded by his intimate devotees. He is surrounded by many devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wherever he was going, thousands and thousands of people were following his Sankirtan. But especially he was always surrounded by 5 special devotees. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. He is himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, his expansion Nityananda, his incarnation Sri Advaita Prabhu, his internal energy Gadadhara, and his external marginal energy Advaita Prabhu in Srivas. But he has got another energy, which is called external energy. External energy cannot come in front of God, Krishna. This is Maya, just like darkness cannot come in front of the sun. In this way, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the meaning of the difference between the demigod worship and Krishna worship. So thank you all very much for listening. Vishwakarma Prabhu, you may comment.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana, for this wonderful class, authentic explanation of our philosophy as Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, so brilliantly explained to the conditioned souls throughout the world through his lectures, through his books, and through his personal association. Further, in terms of this discussion, Krishna consciousness is the direct path, Prabhupada explained, back to Godhead. And these particular people that worship the demigods, they're like going up the stairs to a, Prabhupada uses the example of the skyscraper building, that you can go up the stairs or you can take the elevator. And the elevator is the direct path from the first floor up to the 50th floor. So the worship of the demigods, this is a very gradual path of spiritual life. But in this age, for one thing, we have a very short duration of life. I'm reading statistics that the average man will live between 70 and 80 years. That's the length of your time in this body, 70 to 80 years. So we have to make best use of our time in order to make maximum advancement. So this is the business of the devotee. And we're fortunate here in the West, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was pointing out, and our doctor dentist from India, that the people in India are confused with this demigod worship. Here in this particular section of the Gita, it's also Krishna is explaining how futile the worship of the demigods are, and how the real worship should be done only unto him. Because even if you go to the planets of the demigods, there's still birth, death, disease, and old age there. It's just the duration of life is different. The circumstances for enjoying are different, but it's still temporary. What's the point of staying in this material world when you have a chance to get out by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So you also made reference, and Prabhupada also made reference to Lord Chaitanya's glorious mission. Lord Chaitanya was trying to leave Jagannath Puri to go to Vrindavan in the Madhya Lila. He had great trouble to leave. Everybody didn't want him to leave. And he had hundreds of thousands of people trying to be around him and perform kirtan. And then finally, he left and he was making his way to Vrindavan. And the Lord travels to Vrindavan. On his way, he came to Prakashananda Saraswati, the Mayavadi. And I'm going to go to Madhya Lila, chapter 17, text 129. And I'm going to read a few just verses from this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, text 129. That's Madhya Lila, chapter 17. So, because here we will get an insight into the direct path back to Godhead, directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prabhupada's translation, original translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita, not changed. And this is Krishna speaking directly to us in the Yuga avatar form, telling us exactly how or what we should do to make our way directly back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. Prabhupada said, don't waste your time here. Now that you've got this opportunity, take full advantage of it. Take full advantage of it, because it's rarely achieved. Text 129. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore, they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. Text 130. The holy name of Krishna is not manifest in their mouths because they are offenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is identical with his holy name. The Lord's holy name, his form, his personality are all one and the same. There is no difference between them. Since all of them are absolute, they are transcendently blissful. We'll just meditate on that, those words. Text 132. There is no difference between Krishna's body and himself, or between his name and himself. As far as the conditioned soul is concerned, everything is different. One's name is different from the body, from one's original form, and so on. Text 133. This is the essence of our philosophy, Prabhupada disciples in this association. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is so no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of its being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. The holy name, text 134, the holy name of Krishna, his body and his pastimes cannot be understood by blunt material senses. They are manifest independently. Text 135, the holy name of Krishna, his transcendental qualities and pastimes, as well as Lord Krishna himself, are all equal. They are all spiritual and full of bliss. Text 136, therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and take the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. The mellows of Krishna's pastimes, which are full of bliss, attract the Jnani from the pleasure of Brahman realization and conquer him. So, this is the elevator ride to the top of the skyscraper building. This is the direct process. That's why Prabhupada insisted. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu mentioned Haridas Thakur chanting 300,000 names of Krishna a day. Now, all of the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association should try with their utmost determination to come to the platform of chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra every day without fail. This was the order of our spiritual master. So the combination of chanting, following the regulated principles, taking prasadam, offering your food carefully to Srila Prabhupada, and honoring that prasadam, and not only cooking for yourself, but cooking for others. This is one of the problems that we have. We think it's all about us. It's not all about us. It's about others. From the Hamilton Ashram here, we distribute about 3,000 plates of prasadam a year. We invite everyone to come. In fact, you're required to go out on the street and call out, "Is there any hungry man?" We must distribute prasadam. We cannot just be interested in cooking for ourselves. We cook for the Lord, and then we distribute the foodstuffs to others, as many people as possible. That is the principle of prasadam distribution. So this process of Krishna consciousness is based on all of these principles. It's not just one thing. It's a multiple things. And finally, the association of Prabhupada disciples, people that are personally motivated for name and fame, who are interested in collecting money. These people are different than the Prabhupada disciples who have only one interest in mind, and that is, we are the servants of the servants of the servants of our spiritual master and his disciples. We must work together cooperatively to spread this mission intelligently based on Prabhupada's wonderful teachings and his books that he's delivered to us for the benefit of everyone in this modern times. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, could you further comment for us?
Well, these verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita are quite important because as a devotee, we must understand very clearly the power of the Mahamantra. We're known as the Hare Krishna movement. What is that Hare Krishna movement? It's to distribute the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as presented by his foremost representative, Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So this is a very important point. We have to learn what is the Siddhanta, what is the correct bona fide understanding of the chanting of the Mahamantra. And then when we preach to people of Indian origin, then we're going to basically very carefully approach this point about the meaning of the Mahamantra. There is a reason why it's called the Mahamantra. And that's what Vishwakarma Prabhu was reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is not possible to understand the meaning of the chanting of Hare Krishna or the personality of Krishna with our materialistic mind and our materialistic senses. That's why that verse is there. Atasri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Graya Mindriya. That cannot be understood with these indriya, with these materialistic contaminated senses. How do we change it? Sivan Mukehi Jivado, by the tongue. The tongue has two basic functions, to taste and to vibrate. So if somebody vibrates the name of Krishna and only eats foodstuff offered to Lord Krishna in love and devotion, according to the proper method recommended by the Acharya. One of the problems in our movement is that a lot of people are not eating prasadam. They're eating vegetarian food. Okay, vegetarian food is a step up from eating meat, but that is not the standard. The standard has been established by Srila Prabhupada. It has to be done in a certain way, in a certain manner. Of course, love and devotion is there. What we now have in the so-called society claiming to represent Prabhupada is a complete concoction. They have changed the way of offering prasadam in direct disobedience of the orders of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote a letter in the middle 1970s to a devotee named Dhruvananda. He says, the greatest danger to our movement will be when we start to invent new ways of worshiping the deity. Well, one of the first things devotees learn when they become devotees is how to offer bhoga to Krishna, how to offer foodstuff to Krishna so it becomes prasadam. There's a certain way of doing this. It is not just a mindless ritual. There is a specific way that Prabhupada recommended. But in our movement, they've changed everything on the basis of this living guru concoction, what I call the LJEP, the Living Guru experimental project. The experiment with so many things, not thinking that Prabhupada is already giving everything. He's already given the standard, the method, the rules, the regulations of how to practice devotional service. And one of the foremost point in that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is that jivado, that use the tongue for vibrating about Krishna and tasting foodstuff offered to Krishna. But if you don't offer the foodstuff according to the method prescribed the Acharya, is it prasadam? Is it bona fide? You can't disobey the Acharya and thinking that I'm following the Acharya. That's nonsense. Just like you can't be exceeding the speed limit and claiming, oh, I was doing the speed limit. You're going 18 miles above the speed limit. And you tell the officer, no, I was following the speed limit. That's not going to work. Same thing in devotional service. Our fidelity to Srila Prabhupada begins by following his instructions without change, without concoction. And this is a very important point. So I'll shut up now. Let people ask some questions or comments.
Thank you it's a blessing to be able to hear your learned explanations of our philosophy. I wanted everyone to be aware of the fact that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has been a student of Srila Prabhupada strictly since 1969. Is it 69, Prabhu?
Yeah. I first met Prabhupada in 1967 in Montreal, but at that point I was 16, 17 years old. I couldn't just take off. But I joined in 1969.
Yeah.
I officially became initiated in 1969.
He diligently studies the books and is constantly sending out information to everyone on Krishna Consciousness by email. So if you're interested in getting some of the emails, you can be in touch with Vinkat, and he'll share the Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu's email address, so you can be included in the daily information that he is distributing to others. We're going to go to our question and answer period now. And I wanted to be clear here. We'll have people speak. Some of the God brothers will be selected, but at the same time, we do see your hands. So if you have any questions, you just put your hand up. Vinkat, is there any questions that have come up already on the chat that we should mention before we invite other people to speak? Anything yet?
On the chat, no, but Balaram Prabhu, there's Balaram Prabhu who has raised his hand.
Okay, well, we'll go to that first then. Balaram Prabhu, where are you? What country? Microphone? Put your microphone on. Not working. There's no volume. Okay. If you can figure out how to get your volume on, you have to, there's a button there at the left. It says mute.
No, it is unmuted, but there looks like some other issue.
Oh, he's got some other issue. Let's go to Ram Raghava in Georgia, I believe you are. Ram Raghava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
I would like to ask the speaker, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, or at his discretion, any senior devotee, to clarify a point that might come up for people when they're reading Srila Prabhupada's books regarding the point of demigod worship. I'm going to read a question that, I'm going to say a question that came up when I read the Nectar of Devotion, which is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Srila Prabhupada translated as the Nectar of Devotion. And this is from chapter 8, concerning offenses to be avoided. And first there's a list of 32 offenses, and then there's a list of 29 more offenses to be avoided. And then after that, Srila Prabhupada says in the book, other rules are that one should not offer foodstuff which is cooked by a non-Vaishnava. One should not worship the deity before a non-devotee. One should not engage himself in the worship of the Lord while seeing a non-devotee. One should begin the worship of the demigod Ganapati, who drives away all impediments in the execution of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Ganapati worships the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev, and in that way he has become auspicious for the devotees in clearing out all impediments. Therefore, all devotees should worship Ganapati. So when I first read this, it kind of confused me because we don't worship Lord Ganesh. So if you could comment on that, please.
Well, one of the principles is, but when worship Krishna, all the demigods are automatically being worshipped. Prabhupada gives the example in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, just like when you water the root of a tree, all the leaves, the branches, the twigs, the fruit, the flowers, everything is automatically being watered. There's no need of watering each individual branch or twig or flower or leaf. So similarly, when Krishna is being worshipped, all the demigods are also being worshipped. The point about Ganesh, he is the demigod, you remove all the obstacles, but by worshiping Krishna, all obstacles are automatically removed. Now, regarding the worship of Ganesh, what happened when we were in Japan collecting for the Krishna Balaram temple, one of the brahmacharis who had gone to India adopted a little Ganesh deity, and he started to worship that in his room. And we told him, this is, no, let's put it, Guru Kripa arranged to put it on the altar, and we would pray to Ganesh to remove all obstacles, so we would collect more money for the service of Srila Prabhupada to build the Krishna Balaram temple. So then what happened, we sent a letter to Srila Prabhupada and asked him about this. And Prabhupada says, yes, you can worship Ganesh, but anybody who wants to do this has to give me at least $60,000 a month. Otherwise, they're not allowed to. But we understand that there are many things in the Vedas, in the Shastras, regarding worship of the demigods. For example, when you do deity installations, there's a 3 or 4 day program, and you're supposed to worship great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh. There's different regulations. But for Vaishnavas, the understanding is that by worshiping Krishna, this is automatically done. But in general, Prabhupada did not condone this demigod worship, which also have seen has been introduced with many devotees. So people have to be a little educated and understand the history of this and the proper thing to do. But by reciting the verse from the Brahma Samhita about Ganesh, one is worshiping Ganesh also. I hope it helps.
Ram
Yes,
Bhagavan, go ahead.
Thank you very much. That clarifies something. And I would also like to add another point. A general point is that there may be many processes mentioned in the many methods of worship mentioned in the scriptures. Just like in the medical field, there are many medications, but you can't just go and pick out a medication and say, well, this is also medicine, I can take it. So we have to take that medication according to the instruction of a person who's qualified to give the medication. So similarly, we have to take the processes mentioned in the scriptures by our Acharya, by our current Acharya, who is Srila Prabhupada. And if he recommends a certain thing, we have to follow that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
This is a very important point, which many times, I've seen devotees, I get regular communications from different devotees. And what happened recently in the last few months, at least on a few occasions, I get devotees sending me videos of YouTube with devotees in India in some ISKCON temples singing some song. And I was basically scratching my head like, where do they get these mantras from? In other words, Srila Prabhupada has given us certain mantras to be chanted individually while chanting japa and also during kirtan. But now I see that they have these kind of new style accordion and they have this gypsy dancing with these new mantras. I don't know where to get these mantras from because we never chanted these mantras when we were with Srila Prabhupada. So I thought that this was just one individual issue. And then somebody else sent me another video with a different kind of mantra, this Radhe, Radhe, Govinda, Radhe. And I was thinking, okay, we definitely worship Radharani, and it's very common in Vrindavan for people to say Jai Radhe. But Prabhupada did not encourage devotees for every little mantra that comes up from some Sahajiya or some crazy people. This is not the standard. And the point you're making is a very good point. We have to follow what the Acharya is given, what the current Acharya Srila Prabhupada is given. Thank you very much for bringing that point, Ram Raghava. And there's another devotee who posted a lecture, how can people get initiations these days? Well, our group, the Prabhupada Disciples Association, in affiliation with Hare Krishna Society, we have in the past given some of these initiations, or Ritvik initiation as it is called by some people, in line with Srila Prabhupada's instruction. So there's a process. A person has to be recommended. They have to be chanting for at least 6 months to a year. They have to follow the principles. They have to pass a test. And we set up certain dates during the year where we hold these ceremonies. The best thing to do would be for anybody who wants to do that to contact Vishwakarma Prabhu or Venkat Prabhu and send us the information, and we can start communicating with such devotees. I hope it helps. Hare Krishna.
Further with that question, and then we'll take the, hopefully Balaram's microphone is working now. In order to become a Prabhupada disciple by initiation, you have to be qualified. Just like Ram Raghava was speaking about the doctor. The doctor is qualified by his study and by his skill. And that's recognized by other doctors. And in this way, he's invited into the community of the physicians who administer medicines for curing various diseases. So the aspiring individual who wants to actually become very serious about his relationship with Srila Prabhupada has to be qualified. This is not some kind of cheap thing that anybody can just become an initiated disciple. I know when I was initiated by Prabhupada in 1972, my Brahminical initiation was done in New York City. And we drove all the way down from Toronto in a van. I think there was 12 of us in a Dodge van, just a metal box. And it was hot. It was very uncomfortable. We got to New York, and I had diligently followed the practices of Krishna Consciousness in Toronto for a year, from July of 1971, after I got first initiation, to second initiation. When I got to New York, I was excited because some of my godbrothers, they actually got initiation first and second when they first got initiated in July 1971. So I was left out. My friend Uda Masloka at the time, and Rochan, who does the Sampradaya Sun, they both, and their wives, all four of them got both initiations at the same time. Now, the reason that Jagadish arranged that was because there was a shortage of people that could do the deity worship. And the Toronto temple was just starting to expand. So Prabhupada blessed them with first and second initiations in 1971 in July in Detroit. So I was left as a brahmachari just Vishwakarma Das without the Brahminical initiation. So it was very motivating for me at that time in my life to want to get this second initiation. And so that year, I spent the year going out every day on Sankirtan, on Yonge Street, and attending all of the programs, following all of the principles, chanting all of my rounds, and trying to be the best person in service that I could be. And when I got to New York, there was an issue because Jagadish had sent a letter to Prabhupada asking that I get this initiation, and Prabhupada accepted it. But when I got there, Bali Mardan stepped in and said, no, he can't get his second initiation. He said, there's too many people getting second initiation. He's not qualified. And that was very disappointing for me. I thought, okay, well, I'll have to wait. So it wasn't just automatic that I got second initiation. And then Prabhupada was leaving on the last day from New York Temple. I have the picture of me out front after I got my initiation. And what happened was Jagadish, who was the GBC at the time, went to Prabhupada and explained to him that he had already accepted me for second initiation. And at the last minute, before Prabhupada was leaving, I was the last person to go in his office privately, and he spoke the Gayatri mantra in my left ear and gave me second initiation because he had already approved it prior. So I got a real experience that you just don't automatically. Bali Mardan tried to cancel it, but somehow or other, by Krishna's mercy and Prabhupada's mercy on me, I got that initiation back in 1972 from him. There's some great pastimes regarding that, but I won't bring them up now. So this initiation process means you must be qualified. This is not whimsical. There will be everyone here is a Prabhupada disciple for us. Everybody. Whether you're initiated or not initiated, your focus on the Prabhupada pastimes, your focus on the Prabhupada instructions, your focus on Prabhupada, wanting to serve Prabhupada is there, and that puts you in the proper position as a devotee. But the fact of the matter is, there is a process that we have that you'll have to follow if you're interested, and then you'll be certainly welcome to get the Diksha initiation, no different than when we were sending letters to Prabhupada back in the 70s and requesting other people to become initiated. He would give the initiation name, he would do the beads, and then he would have myself conduct the fire sacrifice, and then the person became an official Prabhupada disciple. Balaram, let's check and see if your microphone's working. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Is it working?
Yes, it is, Prabhu. Haribol. Where are you? Where are you?
Turkey.
Turkey.
Middle East.
You're going to need a new microphone next time, or someone's talking behind you.
No, nobody's here. I think it's
Okay.
somebody else. Somebody else has unmuted their phone.
Somebody.
Anyway.
Please mute yourself, whoever you are. Go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, lovely to be with all of you in this association with Prabhupada disciples and Prabhupada followers, like-minded devotees. So thank you for all your association. The topic today was about worship and the result of that worship. So I wanted to ask, if possible,
Yes.
try to get a clear understanding to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, actually.
Yes.
ISKCON now, we have such a situation that many people have accepted Prabhupada's disciples as their Diksha Guru. Although actually in my understanding, they're Prabhupada's disciples and they're worshiping them to some degree.
Yes.
So what will be the result actually? Because on one sense, they're worshiping the students of Prabhupada, but mixed in there, of course, they're worshiping and developing a relationship with Prabhupada and serving Prabhupada's mission. So what will be their result?
Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to have Yaśodā-nanda give an answer, and then we'll end the class. And then after that, there'll be an istagosti, and we'll carry on further with your question because we're close to the end. So they'll be in 2 steps. He'll give an answer right now. Then after that, we'll have the kirtan because some people may have to go. And then after that, yes, Prabhu, did you want to?
Just one more. This is the first time I'm joining the Zoom meeting. I was always on YouTube before when I could.
Okay, thank you.
But the Easter Ghosty part, I was waiting for it on YouTube and the YouTube cut. So somehow the YouTube class is dropped. So can we keep that going? The YouTube class also? Can that keep on going?
It's Vinod, is that separately loaded on YouTube?
Well, we can decide whether we want to keep live streaming or not. I thought we want to cut off the live stream and keep that as a separate program, which we can upload later. So that's why I was.
Oh, we haven't uploaded them yet?
They're uploaded, but they're not public. So they're available to our members of our group. We can discuss what to do.
Okay, we'll discuss that at our media meeting. We have a 8-man media team, and we discuss collectively how we want to handle our different programming issues. So, by the way, if anybody's interested in the media team, they can be in touch with me. We're always looking for participants. Yaśodā-nandana, please, if you could respond here briefly.
Just briefly, I feel that Prabhupada, based upon what I call the record that took place in the last few months of his manifested presence in 1977, I'm specifically referring from April of 1977 to November 14th, 1977. That's what I refer to the last few months of his prakrita or manifested presence. That Prabhupada gave specific instructions of how he wanted initiations, both first initiation and second initiations, to be conducted in this society for the future after his departure. Now, I realize that this is still an ongoing controversial issue, but Prabhupada usually in any major decision for his society, for example, for deity worship, for the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, for the Gurukul, for the Samkirtan, for so many important major impact decisions for a society, he put things in writing in the form of a letter, a document. There's documented evidence of how he wanted things to be done and to be followed and conducted. With this issue, he gave a letter on July 9th, 1977, how he wanted initiations to be conducted. Now, I realize that there's devotees who've got different interpretations, and everybody is entitled to their pious beliefs and their interpretations. We're not going to deny that. As far as we are concerned, HKS and the PDA, the Prabhupada Disciples Association, we follow the last known written directive Prabhupada gave on July 9th, followed by so many other subsequent confirmations that this is the system that Prabhupada wanted. And as far as all the objections and arguments, we can deal systematically with all these different arguments. We intend to have a series of special events that will be conducted by Vishwakarma Prabhu and Venkat, where we will deal systematically in detail with all of these various arguments about tradition and so many of Prabhupada's statements, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this because of propaganda. And usually the misunderstanding is like this. When in 1970, when there was a big controversy in ISKCON in our movement, when Prabhupada gave sannyas to 4 senior disciples, and a lot of devotees were asking what really happened. Prabhupada wrote a letter to a devotee, and he said, quote, as soon as there is personal motivation, it is not possible to understand our Krishna conscious philosophy, unquote. Now, when it comes to this issue, the same issue, if there's even any tinge of desire for profit, adoration, and distinction, I call it the pod disease, PAD, there's going to be some misunderstanding, guaranteed. I just gave the example of what they have done to the standard bona fide authorized method of offering bhoga to the deities. They totally changed that. Complete concoction. I gave the example how now we're seeing, it is now 46 years after Prabhupada's disciples, they're inventing new mantras for kirtan and worshiping the deity. Where is this from? Why are devotees diverting and disobeying Srila Prabhupada? And when we come to this issue, just like recently, I've been giving a whole slew of arguments from somebody, but a lot of our devotees don't understand the historical circumstances of what happened. They're thinking that all these conversations were available in 1978. They were not. These various conversations, many of them did not become fully available, the proper transcripts, until 5, 6, 7 years later. Why were these things not fully, completely discussed in public, in front of all the temple presidents, all the sannyasis, all the devotees at Mayapur? Personal ambition disease, the profit adoration disease, the rush to judgment, because people were personally motivated to jump into that point, that situation. I see that our good friend Dr. Ronald Singh has pointed out that the instruction from Srila Prabhupada, making it, Prabhupada gave a very important point in the Nectar of Instruction, text number 5, about insufficient guidance. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. But we will discuss these issues in detail. Rest assured, we will have some special events. And today, when we finish this class, we have a special Ishtagoshti where we will discuss that also. Hare Krishna.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So Balaram, just good that you're online with us. Thank you for attending from Turkey. We have devotees from all over the world that are joining us in our weekly programs on Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesdays. So that's a somewhat full diet of Krishna Katha for all of us to keep motivated in our service. We're going to play the kirtan of one of the original kirtans that was recorded by Prabhupada right now. You'll hear, as I mentioned to Ram Raghava, you'll hear him playing the bongos. So Prabhupada did whatever was necessary to spread the movement of Krishna consciousness, even if he had very little facility. Prabhupada was an expert musician, as you all know, and he also played the mridanga expertly. There are recordings of him playing mridanga and teaching mridanga and kartals, and he played the harmonium. He was an awesome singer, very talented musician. And so this particular kirtan that we're going to hear, just listen to it and hear how the bongos are being played, how he keeps time with the bongos before he actually got a mridanga that he could use in the chanting process. And after that, we'll come back online, and we're going to talk a bit more, everyone, about these interesting questions that everybody's bringing forward and discuss them in detail for a while. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaurabhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhakta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare